We're hearing it from clients worried about whether Elon is causing significant amount of brand damage. We've been talking about this for a while, but I'm curious, are you surprised with the magnitude of the drawdown that we've seen?
I'm not surprised. I'm a little surprised how soon it happened. We're getting news stories from the media that are talking about February deliveries, and they're just magically omitting that the Model Y changed over production. Tesla dialed production from like 90% capacity down to 30% to make these new changes. And it's essentially a lack of supply because of the new Model Y, which is Tesla. It costs Tesla less to make, and it's a far superior product. So it's going to be great news long term for the auto business of Tesla. And we're going to talk about the AI business later. The media is just totally leaving out this context where essentially it's not a demand issue, it's supply. People have been waiting for over a year for this new Model Y as well.
What's funny to me is even people who know better seem to be falling into this trap of like, oh, there's this crazy brand damage. Troy Teslake is somebody I've been a Patreon supporter of for many years, been blocked by him multiple times for disagreeing with him on some stuff in a very, I think, congenial way. He had this chart in his Patreon, which I won't post here because it's his Patreon, so I want to respect that. It was the amount of sales lost due to different reasons. And it was like 90,000 vehicles lost due to political brand damage or something like this. So I was like, oh, these lines are down. How can you be coming up with these figures? Like for him, I know he doesn't like Elon's politics and some of that, so maybe it's not too surprising. But I'm like, for him of all people to be ascribing that much of a drawdown to politics instead of just a simple line changeover had me kind of cracking up, to be honest with you.
This lack of sales is driven by a lack of supply. The Model Y is like 300,000 per quarter. Last year, it only did 1.1 million, so it was a little less than 300,000 per quarter. The year before that, it was 300,000. They dropped all the way down to maybe 200,000 this quarter. It could be worse. At first, they have to slow way down to speed back up and ramp it back up. They can't just ramp a large manufactured object instantly. Doesn't happen for the Mega Pack, which is a far simpler type of product. And it's certainly not going to happen for a vehicle.
No, I don't think so. But
I think we need to make some video to spell it out, people.
We've been talking about this for the last month, and it still doesn't seem like I'm still looking. The Wall Street estimates are still too high. I spent a lot of time tweaking my model today. One of the things we've been trying to figure out internally is one of the big surprises this quarter was that FSD actually shipped in China. So you're probably going to have some revenue recognition there, as well as probably some higher take rates. They also don't have an FSD subscription model there. So this is just a one-time cash hit, which is great for earnings. So we're looking at how does that offset
cash infusion.
Cash infusion. What did I say? Cash hit?
Yeah. Cash hit to the bank account. Yeah.
Hits the bottom line, hits the bank account. That's what I was thinking. But yeah, maybe I'm still slightly sleep deprived from the baby. So you've got this nice benefit, and FSD take rates in China have historically been garbage. I mean, like 2 years ago when all the take rates were higher, maybe it was more like 3 or 4 years ago, we got some nugget that FSD take rates in China were about 1%. Maybe they've even come down since then. But I mean, that's basically as low as you can possibly go. So I went back and assumed, okay, maybe you get to 5% and then you actually get some uptick in the 2.5 million vehicles that have historically been sold in China. Some amount of those purchasers will opt to buy FSD also. So you start doing some pluses here, and you're going to have some deferred revenue recognition. And the other thing, which I think a lot of people aren't thinking about yet, is the fact that for these Model Ys in the US and in Canada, they're the launch edition. They come with full self-driving. So you're going to have higher margin on those vehicles. But that's all going to be offset also by the fact that you're losing a significant number of vehicles. And then your utilization is lower, so your like depreciation and all those things are gonna take a hit. So when you add all that together, I was thinking maybe we'll get to the 40 cents or something like that. But no, we're still in like the I think I told you, what did I say here?
You said 25 cents.
25 cents of adjusted earnings per share. There's the Bitcoin impact also, which I'm making an estimate of that right now. So it's kind of funny, like you've got a lot of things that are real positives for the quarter. And even with all those things baked in, Wall Street is still too high on their earnings per share estimates by about double. At least that's what we're thinking right
Those are probably stale estimates, but I think what happened in China is incredibly important. We thought that China may be locking Tesla out of the autonomy market for either geopolitical reasons, because of the whole TikTok thing and tariffs from Trump, but also we thought maybe they were going to favor their domestic producers and throttle Tesla. And they did throttle Tesla's ability to train their system, but Tesla figured out a workaround where they could train on publicly available videos that were on the internet and essentially take those videos and put them in simulation. So you're simulating the 8 camera views from the car and making videos so good that when they train the system on it, it drives incredibly well in China. It's not aggressive enough. There's some things they need to fix, but it is safe. And it seems to be far superior to any other option of autonomous vehicles that customers can buy in China.
Yeah, and so I've been surprised at watching some of these, how surprised the drivers seem to be. I mean, in a lot of cases, these are drivers who are kind of at the cutting edge, the whole Mars and the dirty Teslas of the China community, where they're trying the Waymo equivalents, all the different autonomous driving services available in China. And I think it seems to me that kind of across the board with these videos, they were not expecting it to be like essentially leapfrogging to the top of the FSD food chain or the autonomy food chain in China, but they're widely praising how human-like it is, how natural the behavior is, and how it seems to handle these complex scenarios really, really well. A little cautious, like you said, which I think is something we've seen Tesla do time and again when rolling out a new feature, or especially to a new group of drivers. You almost want it to be more cautious rather than less, just to make sure that there's no issues. But yeah, this is almost I don't know, I struggle to call it a gift, but with the stock tanking and getting this surprise good news, this is not a bad setup. Actually, a lot of the market probably hasn't realized what a big deal this is, because this is a permanent change. We do have the one-time FSD recognition this quarter, but it seems safe to assume that we're going to have increasing take rates out of China on a go-forward basis because of this.
So question is, did they train this from like videos on YouTube in China? Yes, the car has from all the data in the United States already, and adding this in. Each country from here, it's going to be easier for Tesla to add. Now, India might be a different story, and Vietnam has a ton of mopeds. But like it used to be, and this was on the old hardware. Someone got like a Model 3 with a very early version of FSD, and they took it to Vietnam. Stopped at a stoplight, and all these mopeds stopped at the stoplight with it. And literally the system crashed because there's like too many mopeds. It couldn't handle it. But this is different now. It handled all the pedestrians fine in China, a bunch of mopeds, bicycles, parades, all kinds of stuff. It seems to be as smooth as version 13, maybe as cautious as version 12 on hardware 3, and have the safety of both. So it's extremely good.
So we've spoken a lot about take rate this quarter and how the earnings per share is going to kind of suck. But taking a step back and looking at the longer term in China, where do you think FSD take rate goes in the long term in China across all vehicles?
It's hard to say, because culturally people say, well, in China, they don't like to pay for software. And this is a pretty big ask. I'm not sure how many dollars it is, or like how many dollars equivalent.
It's comparable. They do have the 2 different versions of FSD. It seems like what they used to have in the United States, where there was a navigate on autopilot version and then the full self-driving. But it's something close to the $8,000 that it is in the United States.
Yeah. I'd say what's different is you had all these other providers. They're decent, but then Tesla comes in and totally leapfrogs them. They sent a bunch of Xiaomi engineers. They had some work thing where they all had to try it out. That shock factor might drive more sales. I think it's mainly going to be early adopters. I like your 5% figure, and maybe it pushes up against 10% over a full year. I wouldn't be surprised if this happens. I remember people were saying that because of cultural differences, the most Teslas that Tesla would ever sell in China in a given year was 70,000. This is something that Adam Jonas said. They weren't one of the established luxury players. The luxury brands in China used to have cachet, so like Mercedes, BMW, Audi, and
Buick for some odd reason.
yeah, and Tesla, I think last summer or maybe the summer before, did over 70,000 in 1 month in China. I wouldn't be surprised. I find it really encouraging. For a while, when we were talking robotaxi, I was thinking that FSD would be limited to the US alone.
Yeah, well, that's been our base case assumption for a while. It was hard to give any kind of robotaxi credit in China at all when FSD wasn't even available as an ADAS system there. Now that wall's come crumbling down, and I think it's at least possible that you have robotaxi revenues there.